Tonight's live stream is dedicated to my late aunt Valeria Jean Butler, one of the best women that I ever got to know. I was able to go down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Took a couple of days off to grieve with my family. A Baton Rouge housing icon. She did so much for people that honestly changed their lives. And I want to dedicate this stream and the rest of this week's streams to my lovely family. And I appreciate you guys because, obviously during this Lane Kiffin search, it's been nonstop, right? It's this thing and that thing. And over the past 48 hours, we've had some sad news where a former PHL guest is deciding to pack his bags. Shout out to Ahmad. Bro, I'm going to miss you, man. But the truth is, we should still be excited about the future of the Lane Kiffin era. So let's start with the biggest news. Obviously, your on-field coaching assignments are of the utmost importance right now. And there are so many new coaching hires that are going through the pipeline. The first thing is Elijah Robinson, who was once at Texas A&M, most recently at Syracuse. He will probably not be LSU's next defensive line coach, whether that is the defensive ends coach or the defensive tackles coach. I believe Kevin Peoples will remain the defensive ends coach. So it's important whenever you talk about the defensive line coach that LSU is looking for a defensive tackles coach, as many do not expect Kyle Williams to be back. This will also be a Patreon exclusive. I'll post this in the Discord a little bit later. I had the good fortune of meeting a family member who I did not know watched this channel. He stopped me at the Pelicans game last night, and I was able to talk to him about someone that he is related to on this coaching staff. And this is a difficult time. This is a very difficult time. So that will be a Discord exclusive. At a great conversation with this man. He's very proud of his family member and what he's given to LSU football over the past couple of days. But understand, while the Lane Kiffin era begins, the LSU coaching staff that is the coaching staff right now will be the same coaching staff for the Texas Bowl. And that, of course, is the bowl game that LSU will play versus Houston. Yes, we have not been live since that announcement. And I am really excited that LSU is playing in this bowl game again. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. But the first thing is Elijah Robinson will probably not be the defensive line coach at LSU. Do I think it's a big loss? Not really. I think, obviously, there are plenty of defensive line coaches that want to come to LSU. It's just a weird kind of thing, though, how much change has been at this position, right? It's a new defensive tackles coach basically every single year. So it's very interesting when it comes to this position. So you had Kyle Williams, and then, you go all the way back to me, one of the best defensive line coaches ever at LSU was Jamar Cain. He was here for the first season of the Brian Kelly era, and he was run out of town. Now he is probably the best defensive line coach in the NFL with the Denver Broncos because they have been the best pass rush in the NFL. And while Nick Benito is great, they don't have a Myles Garrett. So obviously, you've had Andre Carter, you've had all these different defensive line coaches. It does stink, though, that this position has been hell for us for so long, right? And even back in yesteryear, I feel as if the defensive line coach was not the absolute best at LSU, but I won't talk about those former names. But you then get into the number one question that I have gotten over the weekend, outside of, hey, why aren't you live, is what the heck is going to happen with the offensive coaches that are going with Charlie Weiss to coach Ole Miss in the bowl, the college football playoff bowl series, if you will, because more than likely Ole Miss will beat Tulane and they will more than likely move on in the college football playoff. They aren't going anywhere. So there was a really good report by Wilson Alexander that basically stated if Charlie Weiss really wanted to stay at Ole Miss, which is not going to happen, they went on ahead and hired a new offensive coordinator from ECU. It's just one of those things where the buyout and what they would have to give up is absolutely insane. So the coaches that are coming over with Lane Kiffin are going to be with LSU next season. That is a question that I've gotten a whole heck of a lot. And I would feel pretty good about those coaches. Now, I would guess at this point, if you have already said, hey, I'm going to LSU, I think the likelihood if they weren't to coach with LSU now is that they would coach somewhere else outside of LSU, which isn't going to happen. So I do think I would want to start this stream with that question. I feel pretty good that there's not going to be a turn or a change in hearts with those coaches that have moved on from Ole Miss to LSU. Now, it is of note today that Kelvin Bolden, who came over from Ole Miss to LSU, is now going back to Ole Miss. They rehired him back. So kind of a weird dichotomy, if you will. You're with Ole Miss at Lane Kiffin. Then you go to LSU, where you left Ole Miss. And now that Lane comes over, you're going back to Oxford. He was the assistant general manager at LSU. And, well, I wish him the worst because we're recruiting against him. But, these things happen. And one thing you will notice is a lot of these assistants, and it's not just on-field coaching assistants. We're talking about personnel directors, scouting assistants, if you will, recruiting directors. They move around so much. They go from one place to the other. All right. So then we get into where I really want to lead today's show with, because I have had this bullet in the chamber for so long. I have had it right here in the middle of my chest. I want to shout out Frank Wilson. I want to shout out this LSU coaching staff for doing something that all college football players should do, which is play a damn bowl game. All right. There is no story that I can remember in recent college football history that is the single most overblown thing than this Notre Dame college football playoff snub. This is, to me, the most laughable situation we have ever had with the national college football media. Now, why is this relevant to LSU? We will get to that in just a second. It's very relevant with LSU. So, to me, the college football playoff is the topic du jour. It's what everybody wants to discuss. Did Notre Dame really get robbed out of a college football playoff spot? The answer to that is overwhelmingly no. And as much as it pains me to say, even though I think Notre Dame would beat Alabama right now by a touchdown, I think Alabama still should have gotten into the playoff. I am perfectly fine with how everything unfolded with Alabama still getting into the playoff, even though they got absolutely drubbed by Georgia. And also because Alabama's not necessarily played well. They didn't play well versus us. They obviously didn't play well versus Oklahoma. They did not play amazingly versus Auburn. And you go all the way back to Florida State. A bad team beat the absolute bejesus out of you. It's that 4-week stretch where they beat 4 ranked teams in a row. A lot of those wins, though, were also close. So it's kind of a strange thing where you would feel if Vanderbilt rematched Alabama today that they would probably lose that game, Alabama. So, yes, it sucks to say that Alabama deserved to get into the playoff over Notre Dame. But at the same time, I am so sick of these Notre Damers, dude. It drives me so nuts. It drives me so nuts. Join a conference. Join a conference if you want to bitch and moan about everything. And you had the athletic director throwing a hissy fit when the college football playoff gave you a red carpet last year. You got to play an overrated Indiana team in round 1. You got to play a Georgia team in the Sugar Bowl that didn't have their quarterback. And then you played a team that couldn't even complete a pass to a wide receiver in the college football playoff semifinal that now has a fired coach in Penn State. But you always had that first drive versus Ohio State in the national championship game. At least you have that, Notre Dame. But you just bitch and moan. You bitch and moan. Well, we beat Arkansas by more points than any other SEC team. Shut the up. Shut up. You just did not get into the playoff. Congrats. You won 10 games in a row versus the softest schedule that any of these P4 teams have had in the college football playoff. Join a damn conference. Well, Carter, they play a majority ACC schedule. No, they don't. You can't be in a conference championship game. You just can't do it. So if that's the case, you're not in a conference. You're not. I am sick of it. And then over and over, Reese Davis during the freaking show just kept saying, oh, this is the toughest college football playoff decision that the committee. No, they left an undefeated actual conference champion, Florida State, out of the playoff a few years ago for a schnikey Alabama team that wasn't that good. It drives me nuts that this Florida State team, this was 2 years ago. 2 years ago that they were left out in a 4-team playoff. That was actually a team that got robbed, screwed, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. But I'm sick and tired of this whiny-ass college football media. And then what does Notre Dame do? They do the schnikiest thing I can remember in college football. Notre Dame, the big, bold, beautiful college football Golden Domers, what do? They don't go to a bowl game. They say, no, you're just a little too good for that. Play in the damn bowl game. Play in that is a culture problem. And I keep hearing this. Well, it's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame. They felt jobbed by the committee because they were ahead of Miami the entire time. And then the committee used them for reality point rankings for their shows every week. No, they didn't. No, they didn't do that. You're telling me that the College Football Playoff Committee, which has more in line with AARP than they actually do college football, you think that they are genius enough, these busy athletic directors and power brokers in college football, to predict that Oklahoma would have beaten Alabama and all this other stuff just for the very last week that they used Notre Dame as a ratings tool for a controversial college football playoff selection show just to leave them out and to make it a point that they're not in a conference. Is there some truth to that? Yes, but you know what else is true? You lost to Miami on the field of play. So to the College Football Playoff Committee, congrats. You got it right. You're taking too much shit, and I'm sick of it. I can't believe I am on a platform defending Hunter Yurachek, but that is exactly what I'm doing. It drives me nuts. Notre Dame, shut the hell up. And I am the one that has waxed Notre Dame poetic for months now for being correct about Brian Kelly. I have allowed Notre Dame fan after Notre Dame fan to basically teabag all over my channel the I told you so's over and over and over again. I allowed you to do that. And what do? What do? You whine. You whine. Why do you whine so damn much? Join a conference. Join a conference. Please. Please. Well, we shouldn't have 2 group of 5 teams in. And okay, guess what? If Notre Dame was in a conference and won their conference championship, they wouldn't have to worry about James Madison getting in. Notre Dame got to have all the college football playoff money. Did you know that? They didn't have to share it with the rest of their conference because they weren't in a conference last year. It's sickening, absolutely sickening. So why is this relevant? Why is this relevant for LSU? Well, I'm about to tell you. Because the College Football Playoff Committee did screw over LSU because there was no reason, absolutely none, for Texas A&M to be ranked behind Ole Miss. None. Hated it. Texas A&M, which went to Notre Dame and won that game, and they lose a close rivalry week game on the road where they didn't play terribly. They led for a good portion of that game. And for Texas A&M to be behind Ole Miss, that was a bridge too far. Who Ole Miss played in the non-conference, Washington State. Now, we can get into game control. We can get into Ole Miss's loss was a very sexy loss where they played really well. And Georgia did Georgia things on their home field and scored 17 points in the final quarter. So you can make a case that both losses by both of these teams were not bad losses. right? One lost to a college football playoff team in Georgia, a top 5 ranked team, and then the other lost to a team that would have made it in a 16-team playoff in a rivalry week versus Texas. So yes, Ole Miss's loss is better than Texas A&M's loss, but it's that road victory versus Notre Dame, who, by the way, even though I said all of this, I do think if you were just looking at the film and the eye test, Notre Dame probably is a top 5 team. I just don't have a lot of sympathy for you. I just don't. You lost a head-to-head game. The committee got it right. Miami should have gotten in. But if I was picking the 12 best teams, like if I was picking the 8 best teams, I'd probably put Notre Dame in. But that's not what I'm doing here. I'm judging resume. I'm judging all of that. So for me, I would not have put Texas A&M behind Ole Miss. I just simply would not have done that. I think A&M had a better season than Ole Miss did. Now, of course, A&M did have a miraculous, and I mean miraculous comeback to beat a bad South Carolina team. But keep in mind, Ole Miss on their home field probably should have lost to Washington State. So if you were to also use the fact that Ole Miss should not, or I should say they should be docked some that Lane Kiffin is not there anymore, which is part of the college football playoff criteria to factor in that the team's coach isn't there anymore. Committee decided to not do that with Ole Miss like they did with Florida State and the quarterback situation with Jordan Travis a few years ago. I definitely would have had Texas A&M ahead of Ole Miss. The more I've slept on it, and the more I actually probably despise A&M more than Ole Miss, but that's probably changed now for obvious reasons. So why is that relevant? Well, it ended up being big because Ole Miss now gets to play Tulane on their home field, who they've already beaten, by the way. And Texas A&M now has to host Miami, who has the best defensive end in college football, arguably, and they have the best young slot wide receiver in the sport of Malachi Tony. That's a difficult matchup. Carson Beck's a good quarterback. I still think A&M will take care of business on Kyle Field, but the difference is LSU is actually paying Lane Kiffin's bonuses. So as far as Ole Miss goes, the playoff bonuses that Ole Miss is allegedly getting for Lane Kiffin, the bonuses that they would have to pay him is now going to come from LSU's own pocket per the contract that Lane Kiffin signed with LSU. So it's a very interesting dichotomy. And at the same time, if you wanted to win some theoretical arguments, it would have been a lot better had Ole Miss played in a game that they actually could lose, that you could have said, hey, you actually did need Lane to beat Miami. I will say, though, and I don't really care about that, to be honest. Pay whatever Lane wants as far as his bonuses are concerned. I will say this. Ole Miss fans, please do not lose to Tulane. Do not lose to Tulane. Oh, my goodness gracious. If you lose to Tulane, you are not going to want this clean-shaven body on this network. I will shave my chest, which I actually have to do, thanks to Mr. Blake Ruffino. I will do it live on air. I'm going to have to do it anyway. If Tulane wins this game, Ole Miss fans, do not. Just simply don't let it happen. I am kindly asking you in 2025 to not let this happen. But anyway, I had this in the chamber since Sunday morning. Good to have you, Charles. We also get a Venmo in here from, make sure I get this right. I'm guessing it's LA Mom. Yes, I could make a great case that Notre Dame's resume wasn't that great. The good teams on their schedule were the 2 games that they lost. Yeah, I mean, they did beat Pitt, who's decent. But the problem with that Pitt victory is Miami also beat the crap out of Pitt 38-7. And the second thing as well is They also beat USC by 10. And USC is a good team in my mind. Let's go to Charles. Great show, Carter. Notre Dame crying like a champion today. Excited to watch us play a good H-Town team. Even with opt-outs, I anticipate a good game. All right. To Charles's super chat and to all these comments that we're getting, I am happy to be back with each and every one of you. I will say I have never been more disgusted with the college football media and the reaction to this. Literally. Like this was it was the single most disrespectful in the moment thing I have ever watched in my life to the 2023 Florida State team. And Kevin Clark, who was at The Ringer, who I love, now at ESPN, which I also do love, Kevin Clark tweeted that out saying, hey, what are we doing? And by the way, Kevin Clark is a Miami guy. So him sympathizing with Florida State is crazy. It is so disrespectful to that Florida State team. And I know they don't give a shit, but the truth is, it is very disrespectful to them. They actually got robbed. Notre Dame did not get robbed here. It just simply did not happen. I don't care if the committee didn't do the rankings correctly and they didn't have them in the same groupings and BYU lost and they were head-to-head or they were by each other in the rankings. They got it right. They eventually did get it right. The process was terrible, and a lot of you know I am a process over results kind of guy. But in this scenario, the result really, really, really does matter. And they got the result right. We would be far more outraged today if Miami did not get in and Notre Dame did. Okay? It's just how it works. The big problem is the ACC and how bad their conference is actually operating. And the highest ranked group of 5 and all of that. I do think it's important, though, to keep a group of 5 automatic qualifier. I really, really, really do think so. Okay. But the college football media should be disgusted. And I normally side with the college football media. One final thing for the bowl game scenario. I understand that nobody is excited about going to the Texas Bowl for the third time in 5 years. But the reason why this bowl game is big is because there are a lot of LSU donors in Houston. It is a huge LSU fan base. One of my biggest supporters on PHL, who is no longer with us, King Robert, lived in Houston. Our guy Russell, the poker pro, watches us from Houston, right? We have so many viewers there. There are so many LSU grads that are there. Anytime we play in Houston, it's a big, big, big bonus. We're able to get back into Texas. Obviously, recruiting and the bowl games, they don't matter quite like it used to be with signing periods in February and all of that. Now they're in December before the bowls even happen. But I love playing in Houston. I love playing in NRG. At the same time, that turf can be unkind, right? We actually had a player hurt himself practicing on that turf before a season opener a few years ago, and Jared Small. And that was actually a season opener that we didn't even play in Houston, but we were evacuated because of the hurricane. So it could be tough. Now, we do have opt-outs. Obviously, Mansour Delane should not play in the bowl game. And anyone that argues to the contrary is just crazy now. And look, a first-round pick means so much more to your program than him playing in the bowl game, right? Same thing with Will Campbell last year. You want as many first-round picks as you possibly can. And Delane is a near mortal lock, barring a terrible medical, being an NFL first-rounder. He plays corner, which is probably the second or third most drafted position in the first round. It might be the first. It's either wide receiver or offensive line. But Delane's not going to play in the bowl game. Garrett Nussmeier's not going to play in the bowl game. Aaron Anderson doesn't look as if he is going to play, as Frank Wilson said a little bit earlier today. You know, you do worry about guys like Jack Pyburn. Obviously, I'm very close to the Pyburn family. I do not know if he's going to play in the bowl game. I would tell you if he was or if he wasn't, but I've actually not spoken to him because obviously this was, you know, one of the tougher weekends of my life this weekend. But the truth is, I'm glad that we're still playing in a bowl game and we're not Notre Dame. And something else, and I got into it with a national reporter, and some people didn't like it. There's this reporter, and I've cited his work plenty of times. His name is Matt Brown. He's a great reporter. His newsletter is called Extra Points. Did a lot of reporting on the college football video game and all of that. And he tweeted out something that bothered me. It was like, yeah, I have no problem with Notre Dame not playing in the bowl game. And it was like, I have no problem with Notre Dame. It's a business decision and la-di-da-di-da. Man, stop this, man. The bowl games, we shouldn't be encouraging Kansas State to not play in a bowl game. We shouldn't be doing this. It's one more game. It's one more ride with the fellas. If anything, these bowl games are good for the backups who actually get to play in a game, right? There were so many LSU backups that aren't SEC quality players that got to play and start in a dominating victory last year because we needed them to. Okay. Could we have a John Trey Kirkland situation for this one in Houston yet again? We very well could. But I love bowl games. I don't care if they're a relic in the past. It's one of those things where we can't just let this sport turn into, hey, if you don't make the college football playoff, you don't matter. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. Okay. But that's not here nor there. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with how people are reacting to the bowl game. Now, let's go through a few of the transfer portal departures, and we'll start with Ahmad Bro. All right, so he is entering the transfer portal. Obviously, that's something that hurts. You lose some defensive tackle depth, a guy that, you could trust to go out there and give you some good, solid snaps. The one thing about a guy like Ahmad Bro is there was never really an instance where you're watching and you're like, yeah, this guy's just dominating. This guy's just taking over the game at defensive tackle. And honestly, at DT this year, there really wasn't a whole lot of that, period. And I do think LSU wants to go for more upside at that position. And I do think Bro is going to go. It might be another SEC school, but if he goes to the ACC, he probably dominates. I know he has ties to the state of North Carolina. That might be a good fit for him. But I as much as I love Ahmad and as much as I loved him being on the channel, and he'll always have an invite to be on here. I do understand him also leaving because it looks as if Kyle Williams is not going to be here anymore, and obviously had a really good relationship with Kyle, that being his high school coach. So I hate that. I want him to stay, but I also understand why he's leaving. Sadir Mitchell also officially in the transfer portal. It's not really anything too crazy. That's something that we expected at this point. Then you get to Ashton Stamps being officially in the transfer portal. So you notice quite a few of these guys are 3 stars, lower ranked 3-star recruits. And it's just so much harder to make it as a lower ranked 3-star recruit because number one, the recruiting rankings have gotten better. And then number two, it's just harder, right? If in the older days, let's just say you were a Louisiana 3-star and you started off your career getting snaps, developing and all of it. And let's just say as a player like Stamps or in Bro's case, you are a good player, but you're not an elite player. Well, now, before you enter that prime year 3 of your career, I can go to the transfer portal and get someone better than you immediately. And that's what happened to both of these gentlemen. So Ashton Stamps, in the old days, before the transfer portal era, would have probably played more this season. But now you can go get someone. You can go get Delane and bring him in, and he'd be ready to go right away. Same thing with Ahmad Bro. We went and got Bernard Gooden. Bernard Gooden didn't play last year for us. In the second portal window, he came in and took a lot of Bro snaps. So it's just harder. It's really harder to develop on the spot and really get better. Unless, of course, you're an offensive lineman where teams do value more continuity and they're willing to, embrace your mid, if you will, or you're not great, or you're just good but not elite before you actually turn elite. It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. Okay. Let's go to Tony. Carter, I saw Bryce Underwood is entertaining the portal. Do you think he really wants to come down to the Bayou? I did not see anything as far as Bryce Underwood. I can look this up really quickly. Would I be open to him coming? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would. Let bygones be bygones. But the truth is, that was a fake report by NO3 Sports. So Bryce Underwood is making $3 million a year. When he signed that deal, it probably wasn't a year-to-year thing because Bryce had all the leverage. It was probably a guaranteed deal for the $12 million or whatever it was from Larry Ellison and Dave Portnoy. And I don't think he's leaving Michigan. I will also say it is so much easier to get fake news in college football. And I'll explain why after this, okay? And it's important because there's a lot of fake Lane Kiffin stories going around. And I have a lesson, or I say a lesson, I have a tip for you to not get fooled. PHL Nation, it's time to lock in and get serious really quickly with our friends at Fortified Gulf Coast and FortifiedGulf.com. This is my buddy Ramey. He is one of many Fortified Gulf Coast inspection professionals that are doing something to help you not only save your home, but your memories.
The Fortified program got started about 13 years ago. We adopted it here in New Orleans about 2.5 years ago. It's a more advanced way of doing the roof. It adds an extra layer of protection, whereas even if a hurricane was to pull the shingles off this roof, water will still not get into the house.
So yes, your establishment is important, but what about the things you can't replace? That family scrapbook or that painting that's been handed down from Meemaw to Papaw and to you. It is important to protect that today with Fortified Roofing. And while this seems like a priceless asset, did you know it can actually save you on your homeowner's insurance up to 37% if you are in South Louisiana? Just call the number 504-444-7563. That's 504-444-7563 or visit fortifiedgulf.com. That's FORTIFIEDGULF.com. Let's go. Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabordTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabordTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region. Alrighty, so there's so many fake stories now, and because it's so easy to fake like the graphic news alert, pretty much any one of you can do these graphics in Canva now, and people have gotten so good at putting fake insignias and having really good fake like channel names on YouTube. It's easy to get fooled. And what I do is, if it is a big, big, big story, like Bryce Underwood entering the transfer portal, you're going to have every single reputable reporter putting that out there. Okay. So that's not one where you're like, hey, I read it on that one message board. And honestly, it's not even the message boards anymore. Like message board fake news is just so out there now. Like so-and-so coach he and his next door neighbor had a three-way with a whale. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you see in message boards. But like on these fake Facebook pages, it's stuff that's like kind of true. It's stuff that you could actually reasonably see being true. Like, it's more of head coach Frank Wilson donated $500,000 game check to child with cancer or something like that. And that's something that I could believe in. Like, Frank's a generous guy, and he could do something like that, but it's probably not true. So you've got to be careful. And there's going to be a lot with Lane Kiffin. Now, why is there going to be a lot with Lane? Well, it's because he's the biggest story in college football right now. Okay. He is the biggest story. And speaking of which, we're going to have a new segment here on PHL, which is, what did Lane Kiffin tweet today? All right, this could get me demonetized, obviously. Kidding, Lane. So this was one I found to be interesting. LSU football, this is via Jacques Doucet, former PHL guest. We love JD on here. They have 15,000 new season ticket requests since Lane Kiffin was announced as the new head coach, more than half of which coming in the first 24 hours. Corporate sponsorship and donations are likewise heading in a positive direction. And Lane Kiffin followed up with, "Thank you, LSU football, #JustDifferent." Crazy. 15,000 new season ticket requests in a stadium that holds 100,000. I do think, and once again, this is not source, this is just me reading a bit of the tea leaves here. I do think game environment matters to Lane Kiffin. He was frustrated with the lack of night kickoffs. Obviously, LSU is normally pretty generous in getting night kickoffs from the SEC or ESPN, if you will. Obviously, Ole Miss's attendance can't really touch LSU's attendance. It's 2/3 that of LSU. So John David Baker heading to Ole Miss. We talked about that a little bit earlier as the offensive coordinator. It's going to be interesting as far as John David, because there are some off-field things with that move, but obviously East Carolina, the Pirates, man, they've had good offenses for a very long time. Okay. Now we get to me, Lane's tweet, "Go win it all." 4 current LSU offensive assistants are joining offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. Tight end coach Joe Cox, wide receiver coach George McDonald, assistant quarterback coach Dane Stevens, and slot wide receiver coach Sawyer Jordan are all back at Oxford. Once again, to me, obviously Lane Kiffin, the white dove that you normally associate with funerals. I want to talk about this. You become even more hypocritical if you're Ole Miss and you're saying, "Hey, Lane, we're not going to let you coach in the bowls, even though we're letting James Madison, they're allowing their coach to continue coaching. Their coach took the UCLA job." Okay. Coach Chesney's a great coach. Same thing is true with Tulane. Tulane's letting John Summerall coach. Well, Carter, it's a lower level, and he didn't go. Those coaches didn't go to a rival. That's the dumbest excuse I have ever heard for not letting a man coach in a college football playoff. I swear to you, hand on the good book, whatever metaphysical being you might believe in, I will hold it to this opinion. If Lane Kiffin was with Florida and he chose Florida over LSU, and he was in the same situation, I am a gazillion% telling Ole Miss to let Lane Kiffin coach in the college football playoff. It makes no sense that you allow these 4 coaches and you don't let Lane. All right. I thought this was interesting. Lane Kiffin retweeting Kevin Smith, the running backs coach for Ole Miss. Him retweeting Coach Smith. So it is important to point out that Ole Miss and Kevin Smith have a really good relationship, and Kevin Smith has a really good relationship with Lane Kiffin. Frank Wilson also shared today that he doesn't know his future, and obviously Frank Wilson is the running backs coach at LSU, and he's currently the interim head coach at LSU. It's very interesting. Lane Kiffin tweeting out Bryce Brown, then a car coach, an all-time great Louisiana high school legend. I cannot wait to watch Ed Nakar versus St. Aug this weekend. And I'm cheering for St. Aug. I'm sorry, Coach Bryce. It is insane to me that St. Aug, who had Leonard Fournette and Tyrann Mathieu, they did not win a state championship with those two. It's crazy to me. I still don't believe it. Okay. Shay Dixon retweet. Toss in the number 1 overall prospect and the number 1 athlete and 5-star recruit Lamar Brown, who plans to play defensive line at LSU. The Tigers walked out of the early signing period by signing 3 of the top 4 rated prospects on the defensive line. Richard Anderson, Deuce Geralds, and Lamar Brown. Sexy stuff, baby. Okay. Lane Kiffin retweet. The robot field painter. Traits plus development equals DBU. This was interesting from Lane. Here's how a 16-team playoff field would look if applying this year's rankings. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Are you pro 16-team playoff over the current 12-team format that we have? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Now notice, this is a 16-team playoff field with the current rankings. So you had the 5 highest ranked group of 5 teams. Group of 5 teams. I'm at the 5 highest ranked conference championship teams. Charles says yes. He's the only one that says yes. A lot of you are anti-expansionists. Huff says, no, we need 32. That's insane. Huff, I've seen a lot of bad opinions. That's the worst. Tony says Lane should have to retain Frank Wilson. He is a must-have. This would have been a good year for a 16-team playoff. Would have been a really good year. Because the question I would have for anyone that would be anti-16, which I am, is the lowest ranked AQ or non-AQ. Would I consider that team to be a very good team? Vanderbilt is a very good team. Where the drop-off really happens is with Arizona at 17. Because I believe USC is 16. USC is a good team. Not just by brand, they're a really good team. Arizona is not that great of a team. So then it gets into, would a 16-team playoff or just a 12-team playoff be better if we just put the 12 best teams in there? We continue with Lane Kiffin's retweets. The most teams in the CFP. The most teams in the CFP top 25. Georgia, Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, and Vanderbilt. 7 teams. Think about it this way. Roughly half of the SEC takes up half of the top 14 in college football. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. Lane Kiffin retweets that viral Saban moment from over the weekend. I won't play the clip. Richard Anderson took home player of the game honors after beating Catholic High over the weekend. Okay. Scott Ballard. I'm going to retweet Scott and give Scott a follow. You go, Scott. Saban saying per capita, Louisiana has more players playing in the NFL than any other state. I think that's technically Georgia, but his point still remains the same. And maybe that's changed. Knox, Kiffin, Hunting. And then, of course, you have this from Lane. So let me know if you like the segment. What did Lane Kiffin tweet today? I love that segment. I love Lane tweets. And I got him on alerts. I would check him even when he was at Ole Miss. Now we got Leonard Fournette. But you're talking about in recent years. Well, it just depends on your definition of elite. I think Harlem Berry and Caden Durham are very good. I do. It just comes down to your definition of elite. You know, I do think the stat that is very important because two things can be true at once. Your best don't always coincide with national champions, right? I can make a case before Joe Burrow and before Cam Newton, the best college quarterback I've ever seen is Peyton Manning. Tennessee won the Natty the year after he left. So just because you're good or you're an all-time great doesn't guarantee that you're going to win the Natty with that team. And the same thing is true with Frank, right? And why it's important to not have we're going to fall apart if we don't have Frank Wilson anymore. Because a lot of you have that opinion. It's just not true. We have never won a national championship with Frank Wilson as a coach at LSU. We just haven't. Now, once again, that's not because Frank isn't a good coach. It's just not the case. It's just one of those things where you don't need any one individual to win a national championship. You just don't. Jamie says this isn't March Madness. Let's go to A. Withers 30. Carter, why does it make sense to give Notre Dame an auto bid next season just for finishing in the top 12? BYU was forced into a conference. Why not Notre Dame? All right, so I'm sorry that this LSU show has kind of turned into a college football playoff show. But once again, I wasn't able to go live this weekend. And this is the first time I've been able to go live with you lovely people. And since the playoff release, okay? Yo, it is so unfreaking believably stupid that Notre Dame is not in a conference. Like, college football is wacky enough. It is hard enough to keep everything organized in this sport. It is impossible, honestly. But here we are. With Notre Dame not having a conference, you're just on your own. This is not tennis. This is not golf, where that is okay. In team sports, everybody is in one conference or in one league where you have a separate set of rules from everyone else. So it drives me nuts. Historically, there's never been a dozen qualified teams in the sport anyway. Indiana has an AI robot playing quarterback. It's weird AF. No, I don't think Mendoza is. I think you're saying that because of how he speaks. It's like almost too pristine, if you will. But I think, some people are turned off with Mendoza because he is very animated. But not only is he animated, he's always saying the right thing while being animated. But I do think that's just his personality, and I like him a lot. Now, here's something else I'll say. Tyler Shuck balled the frick out. Now, is my opinion on this different? That last night, I got to talk to Tyler Shuck for about 5 to 10 minutes yesterday before the Pelicans game. Very cool opportunity. And we just talked ball. We talked about Texas Tech. We actually talked about college football, and we talked about Drew Brees, the Saints, all of that. Really nice guy. He didn't need to talk to me. He was with the significant other who was celebrating her 26th birthday. And there you go. But if the Saints are in position to draft Fernando Mendoza, the way Shuck played versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I haven't been able to watch the full all 22 of it yet. But that was a pretty big time game on the road. Like, that was how NFL quarterbacking is supposed to look. That wasn't like the Panthers game where the Panthers are very hot and cold. The Dolphins game, the Dolphins were playing with a big lead, so you're able to get some easy catches. The Tampa Bay game was actually really freaking good. So could my opinion be swayed that Tyler Shuck is probably one of the nicer individuals I've spoken to that's an actual NFL starting quarterback? Yeah. Because NFL starting quarterbacks are the single most powerful athlete in American sports. And, yeah, I mean, part of it was that. It was very nice. But at the same time, man, it was really special. It was really, really special, that game this weekend. So I wanted to give a little Saints chatter. Also, shout out to Cam Jordan. Got to talk to him for a little bit. And we took a photo at a Pelicans game a long time ago. And then we took another one. And this one wasn't a selfie. And you could see two defensive ends in their mid-30s. One, of course, being wildly more successful. And the other, of course, being Cam Jordan. And you could see that photo on my Twitter account at Power Hour LSU. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Mr. Cam Jordan. Okay, one final break, and we'll wrap this thing on up. That's what she said. It is PHL.
Are you a die-hard LSU fan? And would you like to understand the complex game of football better? Well, sign up today for our PHL Patreon. This is his second touchdown. Counter G, why you're pulling the guard. We dive deep on recruiting and the transfer portal at a level that you have never seen before. Film breakdowns from so many different angles, and my personal favorites, Oh, yeah. The analytics, baby. I like to get nerdy. We take a look at cutting edge statistics that help all of us understand LSU football even better. And guess what? Every new sign up gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail for free. But we got to save the best for last. Our private Discord community of LSU fans from around the globe. Sign up today. Patreon.com/LSU football and put your name on our wall of patrons. Special thanks to everybody who's on here. Let's freaking go.
All righty. Join our Patreon. It's so good. You get Discord benefits, and you're going to get the Patreon exclusive of a pretty big time secret PHLer. I had no idea that this guy was a big fan. I had no idea. It's going to be a mind-blowing story, and it's going to be a Patreon exclusive. It was good being outside last night. Would I spend $25 on a white elephant? Now, I don't know what a white elephant is. Let's go to Pegasus, who are 5 players from this team you absolutely need to keep for next year. Yeah, so number 1 is probably DJ Pickett for me. That position is just so valuable. And look, I'm glad you brought it up. Lost in all of this. I did not shout out Montour Delane and AJ Halsey getting first team All SEC honors a little bit earlier today, and they deserve it. But DJ Pickett's probably number 1 for me. And then probably number 2 is Harlan Berry. And number 3 is probably Trey Green. You could flip those 2, and there you go. And then, of course, it gets into offensive line. Who can return on that offensive line that can actually start next year? Tyree Adams is one of them. That's a big one. And, of course, to me, I think Whit Weeks is up there as well. He's probably number 1 if he wants to come back and play another season under Lane, okay? Curran is up there, right? So I'd probably keep Pickett number 1, though. Tackett Curtis just hit the portal. Interesting, the Wisconsin linebacker who started his career from with USC and then played his high school football with Manny. This comes in from Chris. It's spelled Khris. Thank you so much. Where do I think Elijah Robinson will end up? He is a thumbnail image. The defensive line coach. The rumors are it's Nebraska. So why would you go coach at Nebraska over LSU? It's money. Maybe money, maybe it's job security. I don't know. Let's go to Ben Levy. 5367. Who do I think is the biggest position of need for the transfer portal? Yeah, offensive line is just by far number 1 for me, behind quarterback. Okay. But yes, Elijah Robinson and Matt Rule apparently have connections. Austin Simmons. I still have not watched that interview with the Austin Simmons dad. I have seen an interview with him before a few years ago when I did a video on him. I don't know what he's going to do. So here's what we're going to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this party moving. Okay. Og. I was saying Og. Come on, Phoenix. St. Aug has never won a state championship. I'm cheering for him. This is cool. I'm going to show you a few cool things over the weekend. This is the award my aunt won many a moons ago for the Louisiana Housing Finance Agency. She did a lot of like real things for real people. Just kind of dedicated the show to her. Okay. It's my beautiful family right here. Lots of beautiful faces mixed in there. Successful business people, entertainers, crazy stuff. The preacher, my brother Calvin, not my brother, but he is my brother, if you know what I mean. Brother Calvin at her funeral talked about Blue Store chicken. I mean, you can't go anywhere in BR without people mentioning Blue Store chicken. Shout out to, this is one of my favorite writers right here, Shamit Duha. Great NBA writer for the Pelicans. And was able to sneak down, get a photo next to Victor Wembanyama. He tells a little bit taller than me. Here's a Cam Jordan photo from earlier. Okay. And Mr. Tyler Shuck, Tyler, you got a fan in me. I'm not going to speak ill of you ever again. Now, if you make a bad throw, I'll mention it. But he's a really nice guy. Okay. Shout out to the Pops. Here he is wearing an Allen Iverson shirt. Had a good time, man. And here I am. This morning, I went to New Roads, Louisiana, and had a pancake breakfast with my grandma. I'm going to turn this off. I see green screen for a little bit. Y'all got to see this. Okay, my grandma, she is turning 100 this weekend. Made some pancakes this morning, baby. She still got it. She still got it. So it was good. I saw some of you this weekend as well. There wasn't any PHL get-together, but man, it was just a crazy weekend. And I'll make sure I get this right. There you go. Is my grandma single? Legendary. That's crazy. That is the wildest thing I've ever taken in. No, she is not. She would laugh at that as well. But you better not talk ill about my mama Ruth again, or else you're gonna get these hands, legendary CEO. Thought about this. No, she is widowed. But I miss my grandfather. I was really close with him, by the way. I only think about him every day. And he passed away when I was in 9th grade. I will say it. It's funny. I think she would laugh at that as well. We could take jokes. Are C.J. Baxter and Boo Carter takes? Yeah, not Boo Carter. I don't want anything to do with that. Is he really talented? Sure, but God, that was a locker room disaster at Tennessee. C.J. Baxter, for those that don't know, is a running back at. And by the way, Boo Carter is a defensive back and really talented punt returner. He's a really good player. And C.J. Baxter would be a great depth piece at running back. I'm not doing Blake show tonight. I'm not. We normally do Tuesdays, but I was traveling today, and yeah, I might be on tomorrow. Green, Pickett, Barry, Spears, Cooley. Well, there you go. One thing it's interesting about college football is I do think fans have become more in tune with how things look compared to if you win or not. And I think a good litmus test of this is the entire fan support of Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly this year. You could kind of feel it in the Florida game, and you could definitely feel it in the South Carolina game. And I want you to take in how the schedule actually operated this year for LSU. Boom. We were still a 5-1 team after South Carolina. And it was a night game. And anyone that went to that South Carolina game would have told you that the environment there wasn't where it needs to be. And that's because the product was a bad offensive product. It just was. So Lane Kiffin's not coached a game at LSU yet. 15,000 season ticket requests. 15,000. People like offense. It's just how it is. People like points. They don't like winning games playing the way that we played this year. If I go, I want to be excited. Chance, you're good. Meatball Dennis Johnson for D-line coach. I wouldn't be against that. I would not be against Meatball coming back to BR. So there you go. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. I really appreciate every single one of you with your condolences, you guys reaching out. It really does mean a lot to me. All right. So tomorrow, let me make sure I have this all lined up. And I want to ask you guys this question. Would you prefer I go live tomorrow at 4? Or would you prefer I go live tomorrow? Let's see. At 9:45. All right. Type 4 for 4 and type 9 in the chat for 9:35. Okay. I'm going to, gauge it on these responses. I have a men's basketball game and women's basketball game to call tomorrow. Okay. Those are extreme choices. Well, you know, I think a lot of you can understand me getting a cool opportunity to call and get paid for calling college hoops games. Um, and you guys can tune in. I mean, the product's good. I mean, we have good teams. The games that I call are actually entertaining games. Our best player for the team that I call games for is from actually on both teams. One's from Minden, Louisiana, on the women's team, and then on the men's team, the best player this year is from New Orleans. He went to Archbishop Shaw. Shout out to Xavier Myers. I will post a link in our Discord if you want me to, if you're not a patron, I could just send this to you as well. If you want to listen to me call a basketball game, you can ask Jared Addison. We have fun. I do LSU football trivia on there from time to time because there are so many Louisiana people in there. Okay. But so it looks like we have more 4 p.m. responses here. Hell, we might do both. We might do both, depending on how the news cycle goes tomorrow. So thank you guys so much. The kind of weird thing about not streaming over the last 3 days is the only normal stream we did not, or that we missed, was the Sunday night stream. All right, but of course we did not stream Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That feels like an eternity to me. Okay, so there you go. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm leaning towards 4. It is hard to do a 9:30 live stream after calling 2 games. And there can be overtime at those games. So I don't know if I want to do 10 p.m. basically. So we're leaning towards 4. We might do both, just depending on how the news goes. Okay. Big thanks to all our super chatters tonight, Mr. Charles, Tony B, Jared, and Alexander. And a special shout out to LA Mom and the super chat. Okay. For our members, we'll have a new members only video up in the morning. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. If you want to see the super cool PHL super fan that I met last night at the Pelicans game, who has close ties to the current coaching staff, you gotta go to the Discord, baby. Got something special for you in there. Tonight we are doing some deep dish pizza from Rotolo's, baby. Let's go.